The Battle of Trenton, fought on December 26, 1776, was a pivotal moment in the American Revolutionary War. Here's a detailed overview based on the search results. Overview context. The battle occurred after a series of defeats for the Continental Army, leading to low morale among troops. General George Washington devised a bold plan to cross the icy Delaware River on Christmas night to launch a surprise attack against the Hessian garrison in Trenton, New Jersey. Key events crossing the Delaware. Washington's army, numbering about 2,400 men, crossed the river under severe weather conditions. The crossing was perilous due to ice and snow. But Washington aimed to catch the Hessians off guard after their Christmas celebrations. Surprise attack. Early in the morning on December 26, Washington's forces marched into Trenton. The Hessians were unprepared for an attack, and despite their attempts to form ranks, they were quickly overwhelmed. Outcome: the battle lasted less than an hour, resulting in a decisive American victory. Nearly 900 Hessians were captured, and Washington's forces suffered no fatalities during the engagement. Significance: boosting morale. The victory at Trenton significantly boosted the morale of the Continental Army and renewed hope among American patriots. It demonstrated that Washington could lead his troops to victory against British forces. Strategic implications. Following this victory, Washington continued his campaign with another successful engagement at Princeton shortly thereafter. These victories helped solidify American control over New Jersey and encouraged enlistments in the Continental Army. The Battle of Trenton was not only a tactical success but also a turning point that revitalized the American cause during a critical time in the Revolutionary War. Washington's bold leadership and the successful execution of his plan were instrumental in changing the course of the conflict. The American forces faced several significant challenges while crossing the Delaware River during their operation leading up to the Battle of Trenton. Here are the key challenges they encountered. 1. Severe weather conditions. The crossing took place during a harsh winter storm, with icy temperatures, snow, and sleet. These conditions made the crossing treacherous and dangerous for the soldiers, who had to navigate an ice-filled river. 2. Logistical difficulties. The operation required careful planning and execution, but logistical issues arose, including delays in the crossing due to the weather. Washington's forces were behind schedule, which complicated the timing of their surprise attack on the Hessians in Trenton. 3. Reduced troop numbers. Washington had originally planned for a larger force to participate in the assault. However, due to the severe weather and logistical issues, 2 detachments were unable to cross the river. This left him with only about 2,400 men instead of the anticipated larger force. 4. Low morale and fatigue. The Continental Army was experiencing low morale due to previous defeats and harsh winter conditions. Many soldiers were exhausted from prior engagements and faced declining numbers as enlistments expired or troops deserted. 5. Health issues among troops. Many soldiers were unfit for service due to illness or injury. For example, approximately 1,700 men were deemed unfit for duty when Washington's army arrived at the crossing point. 6. Lack of reinforcements. Washington's plans relied on coordinated attacks from different directions, but adverse weather prevented other commanders from joining the main assault force. This lack of reinforcements limited the effectiveness of their strategy. Despite these challenges, Washington's determination and strategic planning allowed his forces to successfully cross the Delaware River and launch a surprise attack on the Hessian garrison at Trenton, leading to a significant victory that revitalized American morale during a critical time. After the Battle of Trenton, the American Army helped improve morale in several ways. Here are the most prominent ways that helped boost morale after this decisive battle. 1. Military success. The victory at Trenton. The Battle of Trenton was the first major victory for the Continental Army under George Washington after a series of defeats. This success restored confidence in the American Army's ability to confront the British forces. 2. Encouraging recruitment. Increased volunteer numbers. After the victory, more volunteers joined the army, as many felt that the victory gave hope for independence. Washington used this high morale to recruit more soldiers. 3. Improving supplies. Access to supplies. After the battle, the American Army was able to capture large quantities of weapons and ammunition from the Hessian forces, which helped improve the Army's equipment and boost the soldiers' morale. 4. Enhancing leadership. Confidence in leadership. Washington's victory at Trenton boosted confidence in his leadership, which helped rally the troops around him and support his future plans. The soldiers became more willing to fight under his command. 5. Change in strategy. Continuing the campaign. After the victory at Trenton, Washington successfully continued his campaign against the British at the Battle of Princeton, which also helped boost morale and confidence among the soldiers. 6. Inspiring the American people. Raising patriotism. The victory at Trenton had a significant impact on the American people in general, inspiring many citizens to further support the revolutionary cause. Thanks to these factors, the American Army was able to significantly improve morale after the Battle of Trenton, which helped boost the war effort and restore hope for victory in the American Revolutionary War. In the Battle of Trenton, which took place on December 26, 1776, the main German forces involved were the Hessian soldiers. Here are the most important details about these forces. 1. Hessian soldiers. Units involved. The Hessian force was under the command of Colonel Johann Rall, who was responsible for the defense of the city of Trenton. The Hessian forces included several units, including Germania Regiment. It was one of the two main regiments in the battle. Fusilier Regiment, another unit of the Hessian forces that contributed to the defense. 2. Composition and tasks. Professional. The Hessian soldiers were known to be professional fighters, and they were hired from the Hessian principalities in Germany to fight alongside the British. Tasks. Their main task was to protect Trenton from any American attacks, especially after the British lost control of other areas. 3. Performance in battle. During the battle, the Hessian soldiers were surprised by a surprise attack from the Continental Army led by George Washington. Despite their training and skill, their lack of preparation for a surprise attack on Christmas morning led to their defeat. After a short fight, about 900 Hessian soldiers were captured, dealing a major blow to the British forces. 4. Results. The battle resulted in the deaths of more than 20 Hessians and the wounding of about 80 others. In contrast, the Americans suffered no fatal losses during this battle. This defeat boosted the morale of the American Army and paved the way for further victories such as the Battle of Princeton. The participation of the Hessian forces in the Battle of Trenton greatly shaped the course of the American Revolutionary War, as this battle demonstrated the importance of strategic planning and the ability to execute surprise attacks to achieve victory. During the Battle of Trenton on December 26, 1776, the weather conditions played a crucial role in the events leading up to and during the battle, significantly impacting both the American and Hessian forces. Weather conditions. Severe winter storm. On Christmas Day, as General George Washington prepared to cross the Delaware River, a severe winter storm hit the area. The conditions included heavy rain, sleet, and snow, which created treacherous circumstances for the crossing. Icy river. The Delaware River was overflowing and covered with ice, making the crossing dangerous. Despite these challenges, Washington was determined to proceed with his plan for a surprise attack on the Hessian garrison in Trenton. Impact on American forces: difficult crossing. The American troops faced significant difficulties while crossing the river. Many soldiers were cold and wet from the icy water, and some fell overboard during the crossing. However, Washington's leadership ensured that all artillery pieces made it across safely. Morale challenges. The harsh weather contributed to low morale among the troops. Many soldiers were poorly equipped for such conditions, lacking proper winter clothing and footwear. Reports indicate that some men suffered from frostbite and exhaustion during the march to Trenton. Determination to succeed. Despite these challenges, the determination of Washington and his men was evident. The phrase, "victory or death," became a rallying cry that motivated the troops to press on despite their suffering. Impact on Hessian forces: surprise element. The Hessians, who were celebrating Christmas and did not expect an attack, were caught off guard by the American assault. Their lowered guard due to the holiday contributed to their vulnerability. Poor weather preparedness. The severe weather also affected the Hessians' readiness. They were not adequately prepared for a sudden attack in such harsh conditions, which led to confusion and disorganization when confronted by Washington's forces. The severe winter weather during the Battle of Trenton presented formidable challenges for both sides. For the American forces, it tested their resolve and determination, but ultimately contributed to their successful surprise attack against an unprepared enemy. The ability of Washington's troops to overcome these harsh conditions played a significant role in turning the tide of morale in favor of the Continental Army during a critical moment in the Revolutionary War. During the Battle of Trenton, General George Washington employed several key strategies that contributed to the success of the American forces. Here are the most notable strategies he used. 1. Surprise attack. Washington planned a surprise assault on the Hessian garrison in Trenton, taking advantage of the element of surprise after Christmas celebrations. He gambled that the Hessians would be unprepared for an attack, which proved to be correct. 2. Crossing the Delaware River. Washington executed a daring nighttime crossing of the icy Delaware River on December 25–26, 1776. This maneuver was risky due to severe weather conditions, but it allowed his troops to approach Trenton undetected. 3. Three-pronged attack plan. Washington initially intended for a coordinated three-pronged attack involving multiple forces. General John Cadwalader was to launch a diversionary attack against Hessian forces at Bordentown. General James Ewing was tasked with crossing at Trenton Ferry to seize a bridge over a Sun-Pink Creek. Washington's main force of about 2,400 men crossed further north and split into two columns to approach Trenton from different directions. 4. Use of terrain. Washington utilized the terrain to his advantage by positioning his troops on high ground and planning flanking maneuvers. He sent forces under Major Generals Nathanael Greene and John Sullivan to attack from the north and south, respectively, encircling the town. 5. Artillery support. Washington brought artillery into position to support the assault on Trenton. The cannons were strategically placed to cover key roads and provide suppressive fire against Hessian defenses. 6. Psychological warfare. The rallying cry, "victory or death," was issued to motivate his troops, instilling a sense of urgency and determination among the soldiers as they prepared for battle. 7. Exploitation of Hessian vulnerability. The Hessians were caught off guard due to their holiday celebrations and low expectations of an American attack. Washington capitalized on this vulnerability by launching his assault early in the morning when they were least prepared. Washington's strategic planning, combined with his ability to adapt to challenging conditions, allowed him to achieve a decisive victory at Trenton. This battle not only boosted American morale but also reinvigorated support for the Revolutionary cause during a critical time in the war. George Washington was able to hide his plan to cross the Delaware River through several clever strategies and tactics, which helped him carry out a successful surprise attack against the Hessian forces in Trenton. Here are the most prominent methods he used. 1. Secret preparation pre-planning. Washington planned the attack in complete secrecy, as the details of the crossing plan were not announced publicly. The goal was to maintain the element of surprise, especially since the Hessian forces were celebrating Christmas. 2. Distribution of forces dividing the army. Washington planned to divide his forces into several groups, which helped distract the enemy. Part of the forces were supposed to attack from the south, while the main body attacked from the north. 3. Camouflage and disguise. Conducting camouflage operations. Before crossing, Washington carried out small operations against the Hessian checkpoints, making them believe that there was less military activity than there actually was. This helped hide his true intentions. 4. Exploiting weather conditions. Crossing in difficult conditions. Washington chose to cross the river on a stormy night, when rain and snow obstructed visibility. These conditions made it difficult for the Hessians to anticipate or prepare for the attack. 5. Delaying British attacks. No immediate pursuit. After Washington retreated to Pennsylvania, the British did not immediately follow through with his plan. Instead, British General Cornwallis established fixed military posts, giving Washington time to prepare for his plan. 6. Motivation. Boosting morale. Washington used slogans such as "Victory or Death" to motivate his soldiers and reinforce their commitment to the plan, which helped keep their morale high despite the difficult conditions. Thanks to these strategies and tactics, George Washington was able to conceal his plan and achieve great success in crossing the Delaware River, resulting in a decisive victory at the Battle of Trenton and restoring hope to the Continental Army during a critical period of the American Revolutionary War. The U.S. Army faced several logistical challenges while crossing the Delaware River in December 1776, which affected its ability to carry out its offensive plan. Here are the most notable of these challenges. 1. Severe weather factors. The weather conditions were severe, as the region experienced a winter storm with snow and rain, which made crossing the river difficult and dangerous. These conditions delayed the crossing and affected the morale of the soldiers. 2. Shortage of supplies and equipment. The army suffered from a shortage of supplies and equipment due to a series of previous defeats, which made it difficult to adequately prepare the troops for the crossing and attack. There was an urgent need to secure supplies before the attack. 3. Declining number of soldiers. Expiration of enlistment contracts. The number of soldiers in the army was constantly decreasing due to the expiration of enlistment contracts and the desertion of some soldiers, which affected the army's combat ability. There were also soldiers who were unfit for service due to illness or injury. 4. Organization of forces. Coordination of movements. There was a need for careful coordination between the different units during the crossing, but the difficult conditions made it difficult to maintain communication and organization among the troops. 5. Loss of communication with other units. The U.S. Army lost contact with some of its important units during the retreat from New Jersey, which led to an inability to effectively reinforce forces before the attack. 6. Logistical challenges during the crossing the river. Crossing the Delaware River itself was a major logistical challenge, as the river was covered in ice and required the use of boats to transport soldiers and artillery across it, which took a long time and increased the risk of detection by the enemy. Despite these major logistical challenges, George Washington was able to overcome them thanks to good planning and the strong determination of his soldiers, resulting in the success of the surprise attack on the Hessian forces at Trenton and changing the course of the American Revolutionary War. Low morale in the American Army during late 1776 had a major impact on George Washington's decision to cross the Delaware River. Here's how this situation contributed to his decision. 1. Stress from previous defeats. After a series of defeats, including the loss at the Battle of New York, the morale of the soldiers was at an all-time low. Washington realized that continuing the current situation would lead to a further collapse in morale, which could lead to a complete withdrawal of the soldiers. 2. Need for a quick victory. Washington desperately needed a victory to restore confidence among his soldiers and the American people. Crossing the Delaware River and launching a surprise attack on the Hessian forces at Trenton was an opportunity to do just that. A small victory could restore hope and boost morale. 3. Motivate the soldiers. Low morale made the soldiers feel hopeless and lost hope in victory. Washington decided that a surprise attack could serve as a motivator for them, boosting their morale and encouraging them to continue fighting. 4. Impact on recruiting. With many soldiers' contracts coming to an end, there was a great risk of losing more troops. A successful attack could have encouraged soldiers who were considering leaving the army to stay, and might even attract new recruits. 5. Taking advantage of the circumstances. Washington realized that the bad weather and the celebrations that were taking place among the Hessian troops would help him carry out his plan more effectively. This good planning was essential to offset low morale. By making the decision to cross, George Washington directly responded to the low morale among his soldiers, trying to turn despair into hope by executing a surprise attack that could turn the tide of the war and restore confidence to the American army. After George Washington crossed the Delaware River, his forces faced several challenges from the most prominent forces in the area. Here are the details about the most prominent forces he faced. 1. Hessian forces. Hessian presence. The Hessian forces were commanded by Colonel Johann Rall, and were a force of German mercenaries hired from the Hessian principalities. They numbered about 1,500 soldiers in Trenton. Immediate challenge. These forces were the main target of Washington's attack, as they believed they were safe due to the Christmas celebrations, which made them unprepared for a surprise attack. 2. British forces. Possible British support. Although British forces were not directly in the battle, their presence in the area posed a threat. The British command was under General William Howe, who planned to reinforce his forces in New Jersey to counter any American moves. British moves. After Washington's victory at Trenton, Howe sent General Charles Cornwallis to New Jersey to regain control of the situation after the American attack. 3. Logistical challenges. Lack of support. The Hessians suffered from a lack of coordination and support because they believed that the American army would not attack during the winter. This lack of preparation contributed to Washington's success. Rapid action. Washington was able to implement a quick and effective offensive plan, leaving the Hessian forces unable to organize an effective defense. George Washington was able to achieve a decisive victory against the Hessian forces at the Battle of Trenton due to good planning and his exploitation of the enemy's unpreparedness. This victory not only boosted the morale of the American army, but also helped change the course of the American Revolutionary War. George Washington used a number of strategies to improve the morale of the American army during a critical period of the Revolutionary War, especially after a series of defeats. Here are some of the most prominent of these strategies. 1. Planning a surprise attack crossing the Delaware River. Washington decided to carry out a surprise attack on the Hessian forces in Trenton after crossing the Delaware River on Christmas Eve. This surprise attack had a significant impact on morale, as it gave the soldiers a sense of their ability to achieve victory. 2. Boosting morale through victory's success at the Battle of Trenton. After the successful attack, the American army achieved a decisive victory, which contributed to raising morale among the soldiers and the American people. The victory restored hope and created a sense of confidence in the leadership. 3. Using motivational slogans, victory or death. Washington used slogans such as, victory or death, to motivate the soldiers, which helped strengthen their commitment to the plan and motivate them to fight bravely. 4. Providing logistical support, securing supplies. After the victory, the army was able to seize large quantities of weapons and ammunition from the Hessian forces, which helped improve the army's equipment and boost the morale of the soldiers. 5. Strengthening unity of command. Meetings with commanders. Washington would meet with his commanders to discuss plans and emphasize the importance of cooperation and teamwork. This type of leadership helped build trust among the soldiers and create a positive work environment. 6. Providing recruitment opportunities, increasing the number of volunteers. After the victories, the number of volunteers to join the army increased, which helped boost the manpower of the army and boost morale. Through these strategies, George Washington was able to greatly improve the morale of the American army, which helped change the course of the American Revolutionary War and restore hope for independence. The victory at Trenton had a significant impact on the morale of the American army, in several key ways. 1. Restoring confidence. Victory after defeats. Washington's victory at Trenton came after a series of defeats for the Continental Army, which helped restore confidence among the soldiers. This victory showed them that they could achieve success against the British and Hessian forces. 2. Boosting morale. Motivating soldiers. The victory at Trenton gave soldiers a sense of accomplishment and pride, which helped boost their morale. The feeling of victory had a direct impact on their willingness to continue fighting. 3. Impact on recruitment. Increasing the number of volunteers. After the battle, the number of volunteers to join the army increased. The success at Trenton helped Washington convince soldiers to stay in the service, as they felt that the American cause was still alive and achievable. 4. Boosting popular support. Stimulating national support. The victory at Trenton inspired many citizens to support the revolutionary cause. The American people's enthusiasm for the war increased, which helped boost financial and logistical support for the army. 5. Improved supplies. Seizure of equipment. During the battle, the American army was able to seize large quantities of weapons and ammunition from the Hessian forces, which helped improve the army's equipment and increase the morale of the soldiers. 6. Strategic success. Changing the course of the war. This victory was not just a military victory, but had a major strategic impact on the course of the Revolutionary War. It demonstrated that the American army was capable of achieving victories, which restored hope to the revolutionary cause. Thanks to these factors, the victory at the Battle of Trenton greatly improved the morale of the American army, which had a positive impact on the continuation of the war effort and the achievement of independence. Colonel John Cadwalader's force was part of George Washington's strategic plan during the Battle of Trenton in December 1776. Here are the key details about Cadwalader's role and his forces. 1. Objective of Cadwalader's force. Cadwalader's mission was to lead a force of approximately 1,800 soldiers, including militia from Philadelphia, to launch an attack on the Hessian forces at Burlington, a strategic point south of Trenton. The goal was to prevent any British or Hessian reinforcements from reaching Trenton to support the forces already there. 2. Coordination with the main attack. Cadwalader was part of Washington's larger plan that included 3 simultaneous forces. While Washington led the main attack on Trenton with approximately 2,400 soldiers, Cadwalader was supposed to keep the Hessian forces at Burlington busy to prevent them from intervening. 3. Logistical challenges. Despite good planning, Cadwalader and his forces were unable to cross the Delaware River due to poor weather conditions and snowstorms. These factors resulted in the failure to achieve the main objective of his force, leaving Washington with fewer troops than he had anticipated. 4. Impact on the battle. Although Cadwalader was unable to carry out his attack as planned, Washington's successful attack at Trenton against the Hessian forces had a significant impact on the morale of the American army and restored hope to the revolutionary cause. Colonel John Cadwalader's force was an important part of George Washington's plan during the Battle of Trenton, although circumstances prevented his mission from being fully implemented. Nevertheless, these strategies contributed to a decisive victory for the American army and positively affected the course of the Revolutionary War. Commander Henry Knox was a pivotal figure in George Washington's strategy during the American Revolutionary War. Here's how he contributed to this strategy. 1. Recovering the artillery from Fort Ticonderoga. Seizing the cannons. Cox was responsible for leading the campaign to recapture the cannons from Fort Ticonderoga, where he managed to transport 60 tons of cannons and ammunition to Boston. These cannons were crucial in strengthening the American Army's ability to confront the British. 2. Cox's role as artillery commander. Appointed artillery commander. After successfully recapturing the cannons, Cox became the Continental Army's chief artillery officer. He had a deep knowledge of the use of artillery, which helped Washington plan effective firepower strategies. 3. Crossing the Delaware River. Planning the crossing. Cox played a key role in planning the famous Delaware River crossing in December 1776. He had experience organizing and directing troops, which helped in the surprise attack on the Hessian forces at Trenton. 4. Managing artillery during battles. Commanding artillery at Trenton. During the Battle of Trenton, Cox effectively commanded the artillery, which contributed to the victory. His ability to accurately direct fire was very important in weakening the Hessian forces. 5. Boosting morale. Boosting morale. His repeated successes, including the recapture of the cannons and the victory at Trenton, helped boost morale among the soldiers and the American people. He was seen as a reliable commander, which enhanced the confidence in Washington's leadership in general. With his experience and leadership skills, Henry Cox contributed significantly to George Washington's military strategy, which had a positive impact on the course and successes of the American Revolutionary War. General James Inge's force was not a major part of the Battle of Trenton, as available information indicates that the main command was under George Washington, with other commanders such as Nathaniel Greene and John Sullivan participating. However, some general points can be made about General Inge's role in the context of the battle. 1. Command and coordination. Inge's role. Inge may have been involved in coordinating the various units, although there is no precise information about his direct role in the Battle of Trenton. General Washington relied on commanders such as Greene and Sullivan to implement offensive plans. 2. Participation in the attack. Offensive plans. Washington's plan was to attack from several directions, with Sullivan attacking from the south and Greene from the north. If Inge was part of this strategy, he played a role in supporting these attacks. 3. The battle's impact on morale. Boosting morale. The success of the battle under Washington's command had a positive impact on the morale of the American army as a whole, including all the commanders and soldiers involved. While there are no precise details about General James Inge's role in the Battle of Trenton, George Washington's overall command and coordination with other commanders were critical factors in the success of the battle. The victory at Trenton contributed greatly to the morale of the American army and restored hope in the revolutionary cause. George Washington's strategy for winning the Battle of Trenton without heavy losses was based on several key elements. The most important of these strategies are as follows. 1. Surprise attack. Surprise the enemy. Washington planned to launch a surprise attack on the Hessian forces at Trenton, exploiting the element of surprise. The attack was planned for the morning of December 26 after crossing the Delaware River at night, leaving the Hessian forces unprepared. 2. Crossing the Delaware River, moving in difficult conditions. Washington's forces crossed the Delaware River in harsh weather conditions, including snow and rain, which made the task even more difficult. However, this crossing was necessary to achieve the element of surprise. 3. Distribution of forces. Coordination of attacks. Washington planned to distribute his forces into two main groups, one attacking from the north and the other from the south. This coordination helped to confuse the Hessian forces and made it difficult for them to organize an effective defense. 4. Exploiting enemy weakness. Exploiting unpreparedness. The Hessian forces under the command of Johann Rall believed they were safe due to the Christmas celebrations, which made them less cautious. Washington exploited this weakness effectively. 5. Directing artillery. Effectively using artillery. Although the battle was short, Washington used artillery effectively to support the attack, which helped achieve victory quickly and without significant losses. 6. Motivational morale. Raising morale. The goal of the attack was to boost the morale of the American army after a series of defeats, which helped the soldiers fight more courageously. Thanks to these well-thought-out strategies, George Washington was able to achieve a decisive victory at the Battle of Trenton with very few casualties, helping to boost the morale of the American army and restore hope to the revolutionary cause.